Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny Aiello, and this is With Love, Jenny, a podcast where we meet ourselves right in the heart of our vulnerability and authenticity. In this sacred space where it's just you and I dive into real life, rich with wisdom and opportunities for deep healing. I explore what it means to truly connect to ourselves, to each other, and to something much greater than us all. In each podcast, I like to meet life right where it touches us most, in our tenderness, in our truth, in our struggles and our strength. So wherever you are on your journey, or whatever it is that you're carrying, no matter how light or heavy, just know I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of With Love, Jenny. I am your host today, and we have quite a compelling, exciting, and inspiring show for you. Before I introduce our guest, I want to ask you a question. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? That question always gives me a real big reality check. For a long time, I would answer that and be off by about 20 years. I never felt my age. Most of the time, I felt younger. Then, depending on life events or retirements or big birthdays that end in zero, or stress or family situations, all of those things can be happening and shape my perspective about aging. And I wasn't really ready to be old and retired. And I had a picture in my mind of what I'd be like when I got to a certain age, but I wanted to be more vibrant and active and alive. And yet, sometimes my body doesn't agree with me on what age I think I am, which leads us to today's episode. I am here with my friend and a remarkable woman that I met a couple years ago. Her passion and insights inspired me to think about aging differently. And Marla Letizia is a change agent on the mindset of aging. And I know that you can't see her on our podcast, but I wish you could. You'd never guess her age, not even get close. Marla has created a movement that she has named the Long Life Era, and she's going to tell you more about that. I could talk for the next 30 minutes about all the things she does and all the things she's accomplished in her lifetime, but I'm going to turn the mic over to her, and we're going to just dive into some really interesting facts about aging, especially aging in America. So Marla, welcome.
Well, thank you so much. What a great introduction. And I want you to repeat what you asked, which was something like, because I actually want to put that question up in the Long Life Era community, which your listeners can find on Facebook. So if you type in Long Life Era community, you can actually join our group, and we would love to have you. But the question was, how old would you be if you didn't know your age? Was that it? Just that's the long and short of it? I love that.
Yes, that's the gist of it. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?
And so what is your answer?
Well, I typically say 48. I'm just real off, but I always felt like I'm about 20 years younger, and 48 has been a number that I haven't outgrown yet.
Wow. Yeah. I would say probably, I wanted to say 38, but that's not really true for me, but I'd say 42. So when people meet me and say, oh my God, I can't believe you're 71 or whatever, whatever age I was, 70 or 71, soon to be 72, I guess. They say, oh my God, I wouldn't take you for anybody over the age of 50. And I think to myself, 50, that's so old to me. Like, yeah, what do you mean 50? I'm supposed to feel great about that? But actually it is 20 years younger than I actually am. But I'm like, feel like I have the energy of somebody who's 42.
And you live that way, I have to say. I see you in action.
I'm exhausted from my own action. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you came upon, and actually if you can share some of the statistics of those group of aging, like how long do we spend in this age that we're supposed to be at that we don't actually chronologically agree with? like, we have our childhood, we have young adulthood. Break that down so our listeners can kind of identify with where they are.
Okay. So, as I fell into this space, and just for a little background for your listeners, and I think you know this, Jenny, is that I fell into this space because I had attended my 50-year class reunion. Actually, it was my 51st class reunion year because it was delayed a year due to COVID. So it should have been 2021. It was 2022. And I was 3 months away from turning 70, which I started to have a little bit of a difficulty about thinking about, wow, like no other age had ever kind of made me stop and think. But I had just kind of said, wow, like this went really fast. And so I was a little slightly anxious about it. And then I went to my 50-year class reunion, and it was just the most remarkable and beautiful night. It was filled with joy and love, and it was on an outdoor patio. And before I walked out onto this outdoor patio, which was a private patio, it was at a country club, I walked out onto the public patio, and you could see down into the private patio. And I saw people standing around. I could hear, the hum of their voices, and the voices just had so much joy attached to them. People were taking selfies. They were airdropping pictures to each other. They had made playlists to attach via Bluetooth to the speakers and asked if they could, it was a playlist of the music of our generation. And so this was a very adept digital group of people. They were dressed very contemporary, and I could hardly wait to get down and visit with them. While down there, it was very evident, Jenny, and to your listeners, that everyone at the age of 68, 69, 70 had truly lived through a midlife crisis. You could feel the peace that they felt having lived through that, and in some cases, a bit of the grief, that they were still here and they were still trucking on, and there was a beauty to it all. I would say that the huge egos that we all had at the age of 18 years old when we graduated had humbled. Life had humbled those egos, and it just was a remarkable and beautiful night. Well, I left there on a high, and when I got home, my husband was already asleep. And listen, all of us have probably learned not to take our husbands with us to those class reunions. They're bored to death, and it's a lot more fun when they don't come. So after 10 years, I stopped taking him. But I just couldn't get into bed. I was so happy. And this reunion was October 17th. Well, as we all know, if you are living in your long life era, that open enrollment for Medicare starts on October 15th, and it runs through December 15th. And I came home and I turned on the TV just to kind of, relax a little bit and come down. And I don't remember what I was watching, but I can tell you that what commercial came on, and it shifted my mindset horribly, which was this. It was a commercial of about 150 people standing outside on a patio. And that actually was something I just left. The thing is, these people out on this patio were not dressed like the people I had just left on that patio. They were dressed like my grandparents' generation.
Yes.
I was like, who are these people? And the hairstyles looked like men and women who literally were alive in the 40s or the 50s and had not changed the older generation, my grandparents' generation. And I am looking at these people, and yet I was of Medicare age, and Medicare and all those commercials had I never connected or attached to them because I didn't identify with them. But I had just left 150 people on a patio that were all of Medicare age, and this commercial was telling me who I was supposed to be. Now, I can tell you that the TV camera, Jenny, was above them, looking down on them. Not as though they were senior citizens, but as though they were second-class citizens. And the announcer was talking to them in this sing-songy kindergarten teacher voice, which sounded like they had lost 25 points of their IQ in the last 20 years. 45 to 65. They lost 25 points of their IQ and they needed to be talked to with, and did you know that 1-800-666-9999 is a toll-free number and you can call now. And then those people were given scripts to ask questions that also made them look like they had lost 25 points of their IQ.
Yeah.
Well, I was royally pissed off and turned off the TV and went to bed. What I didn't realize at the time is that impacted my psyche.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I was turning 70 and it had just started to charge me in a negative energy.
Right.
And the fact that I had seen that commercial started over Saturday and Sunday to eat away at my subconscious, and I didn't know it. But on Monday morning, I went to chair a meeting that I have chaired for the last 10 years. And I walked in to chair that meeting, and I looked around at the people in that meeting, and I said to myself, I think I'm irrelevant. I didn't realize that. But maybe everybody in this room is looking at me like I've lost 25 points of my IQ and that I'm irrelevant. And when am I going to get out of the lane and move over so someone else can take over? Move over, Rover. Let Jimmy take over, right? Remember that song?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had the worst anxiety attack you could ever imagine. And I turned to my co-chair and said, hey, I'm not feeling well. Could I please go home? So I left and I went into a terrible depression for about 6 months. And out of that came the birth of the Long Life Era and the Long Life Era community. So now to your question, as I began to come out of this and work through the positiveness of where those people who are living in their long life era are, this is what I discovered. First 18 years of your life, childhood. Second 18 years of your life, young adulthood. That brings us to 36. Age 37 to age 50, midlife. Age 50 or 51 and above, but let's just say 50. Age 50 and beyond, your long life era. Now, here's the thing. If as you start to turn 50, how do we know that's when you begin living in your long life era? Anybody listening to this will answer this question perfectly. What did you receive in the mail the week of your 50th birthday?
AARP.
AARP, baby. And what did we do with it? I picked mine up. Yes, everybody runs it to the trash. I mean, I picked mine up with my fingers. I didn't want to even put it in my hand. I was so insulted. I couldn't even believe my eyes. And so here we are. What happens is, you know, at the age of 50, based on the U curve of happiness, if you know what that is, we'll talk about that a little bit later, you are truly coming out of usually your midlife crisis. And it takes about a decade to come out of it. And so in your late 50s, early 60s, you go, okay, I'm better now. But then suddenly you take a look back and you go, oh my God, my life is over. And I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't get done. I didn't achieve. I wasn't what I wanted to be. And my life is over now and it's too late. And then you start to throw in the towel and you start to become what these Medicare commercials tell you you are. Now, my mission is to show you that midlife, 37 to 50, is the shortest era of your life. And yet we hold on to that era with our toenails, our teeth, and our fingers, and we don't let go. We are well into our 60s, and we still say we're in midlife. But, do the math. 60 plus 60 is 120. The oldest person on the planet has only lived to 122. You are long past midlife. At age 60, even at 55, when we succumb to going, okay, I can get a discount at the movie theater at age 55,
Yes.
throw that AARP away, but okay, I'll take my senior citizen discount. So 50 plus 50 is 100. Here's the thing. If you knew that you had a mindset to live to 100 years or more, and you could set that template in your mind, think to yourself, at age 60, you could have 40 years left to go. Now think about everything you did in your life from 10 to 50. It was a lot. It was huge. You changed your life multiple times in those years. And hence, you could do the same from age 50 to age 100 or more. And they do say that the person who's going to live for 200 years has already been born. Maybe that's me. I don't know. I'd like to give it a try. Maybe it's you. You don't know. And maybe it's whoever is listening. But these are the eras of our life. And we do not want to give up that midlife idea, because we don't want to become and admit to becoming who we see we are supposed to be in those Medicare commercials. And so my mission is to two things. Number one, help change the mindset of those people who are living age 50 and more in their long life era, and help them to understand, mostly as the baby boomer generation. So we've got Generation X, who are just now in this year, 2024, let's say 46 to 64. In January of 25, Generation X actually becomes part of the long life era. But the baby boomers are the largest generation in the history of the world. They will always have that title because one scientific invention caused every generation after us to be smaller. And do you know what that invention was?
No.
Someone yelled out condoms at my seminar. They yelled that out the other day, and I said, "Are you kidding me? That's how we all got here in the 50s. Those did not work." But the birth control pill actually caused, every generation after the baby boomers to in the early 60s. So 1965, it was in full force, and that's when generations started getting smaller. But is to help the baby boomer generation rectify the honor of wisdom that does not exist in our society. And it is to help those younger than us, those living in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, 3 decades only, to understand that they need to not be anti-aging, but actually, the thing is, we live in this anti-aging society. I'm just going to say this last thing, and then you can ask your next question, which is 4 hours later, I know. But, we live in this anti-aging society. And so nobody wants to grow old. But if you ask anybody, does anybody want to die young? Absolutely not. Nobody wants to die young. And so we are, due to the cosmetology industry, we are led to believe it's not good to grow old. So you need to maybe look like a Kardashian in order to live out your older years. And I don't think that's a good option either. But I do think that other countries in this world, like Japan, India, Europe, Cuba, Mexico, South America, even China, those who are living in their long life era are honored. Yes. They are respected. They are put on a pedestal, and their wisdom is asked, and their wisdom is honored. And my goal is to first let these baby boomers know that it is okay, and that we are known for social change. That's what our generation is. Every generation is known for something. Our generation is known for social change. And at this point in our lives, we have one more huge social change to create. We stopped the Vietnam War. We brought about the British invasion of music with our dimes, our nickels, and our quarters.
Yes.
We were the first generation of women to get into the workforce. We also can be the first aged generation in America who, in modern times, who seeks to be honored and to give our wisdom.
Yes. And I could dive into 3 rabbit holes right now with that last thing that you just said, because I think we have gotten in our country, not in, you named all these other countries where the elders, no matter what age, in that elder generation above, were honored. They are sacred members of their community. They are not parked on the curb, and forgotten. And sadly, that happens a lot, and it's not pleasant. And then the anti-aging generation, it's like the next miracle of what do we do to hold on to that youth. And what I love about what you said is we're holding on to that youth of midlife, like, okay, let's don't get older, and at the same time not embracing what is the natural aging process, because we don't want to look like older than we are. We don't want that, or older than we feel. Sometimes I look at my arms or my skin or my fine lines. I'll say, I'm not going to own a wrinkle yet, but there I am, like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not ready to be that. But I kind of look at them and they tell a story. I was traveling in Peru and met a woman who was their oldest in their community, and she was like, I think 112.
Oh,
and
wow.
she was blind, and she came walking down the hill with her cane, and the community, everyone knew who she was. They looked after her, and the children loved her. And I asked our interpreter, because I didn't speak the language she spoke, but he asked if I could photograph her, because I fell in love with her. She had deep, expressive lines on her face, and her body was hunched over, and she had lost her eyesight. But I saw one of the most beautiful people I think I've ever seen in my life, and I loved all of it. It was like, don't change a thing. And I thought, if I could just embrace my aging the way that I embraced hers, it would be so much nicer. But I think what I love about what you're doing is bringing an awareness, so that no matter whether you're listening from midlife or you're listening from the long life era, we're all getting bombarded with messages, from magazine covers to products, about it's not okay to grow old. Or if we grow old, this is what it looks like. It's a big leap from how I feel to what the pictures on retirement age look like. That they're 20 years past where I feel like I am, or maybe 40. And I also want to talk about the fact that we all live in a mindset that retirement is when you're 65. And my mom lived to be 94. And when I hit 65, I was like, wow, I still have, if I live as long as her, I have almost 30 more years. That's like longer than 2 of the childhood and young adult, right? Like, I have about that much time, and I could do a lot in 30 years. That's sometimes the length of a career.
Exactly. And I want to tell you something else. So I always believed that I was going to live to 120, always. And so when I turned 60, I did feel more like I was in midlife, because I always had set my temperature, if you will, my clock, to the 120 mark. And part of what really gave me pause as I was approaching 70 is that 70 plus 70 is 140. And so I realized I was past that midlife
Yes.
era. But I will tell you this. I've made myself a promise Because I've always been entrepreneurial, as you know, and I've created some very successful businesses in my life. I don't know what it's going to be, but at age 90, I could have 30 years left to live. I could have 30 years left to live. And I literally am going to start a new company, a new business, a new something at age 90, between 90 and 95. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to do it because I can.
Uh-huh.
I don't know where the world will be, but it will need something, and I'll figure out what it needs and I will start it. As you know, I'm a disruptor and a change agent.
Yes.
And this is one of the, this is like my biggest entree into disruption. I want to disrupt the entire country on their thinking of age for their benefit, and for those people living in their 20s right now. I want them to understand all of this. But yes, and so if you're listening to this and you're in your 90s, what are you doing? What aren't you doing? What are you not doing right now?
Right.
Get out
and
there.
How much is left? As long as we're breathing, there's room for more, right? We have room to still contribute, to still grow, to still connect. And I love that, Marla, that mindset was all along, which led you into this movement of recognizing not everybody does that. I don't know anybody that's setting a goal for something new they're going to do when they're 90.
Right. And also because you've used the word mindset several times already in the podcast. And I want to tell you that one of the things that I have done is I have created what I call the long life mindset. And this is a free download for anybody who is listening. You go to longlifemindset.com, longlifemindset.com, and it will be automatically sent to you. And it says, I recognize living a healthy, long life to 100 years and beyond is entirely possible. I embrace becoming a centenarian, which means someone living 100 years or more, is part art and part science. So the art is the mindset. The science is you taking care of your health, your body, your exercise, everything else that you do. And I believe from this point forward, I am the artist and scientist of my own long life destiny. And so this long life mindset gets sent to you. I've signed it, and you can download it and print it yourself and add your name, print your name on it, and put it at your desk or wherever it is you'll see it to remind yourself that you are going to embrace the mindset, the long life mindset, and embrace living in your long life era. And also, I just want to invite everybody to go to Facebook and join the Long Life Era community. Join the Long Life Era community so that they can be a part of the group and join the conversation. We have some good ones, including this new question: how old would you be if you didn't know your age?
Exactly. And it's a great community. I know Marla puts challenges out to the community of, we're going to all do exercises together at least once a day for a 5-day challenge, or different things that kind of inspire you to start small, but start. And I know we have listeners raising children and building careers, and their life is full of stress and there's hardly any room to think. And at that age, when I was raising my 5 kids and doing life, I wasn't thinking about what's going to happen when I turn 65. I really wasn't. I was just too busy to think about it. But along the way, I realized that it is important. No matter if you're not in your long life era category yet, you're preparing for it. How you take care of your mind and body and spirit at any age.
In your 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Exactly, is a forecast to what's going to happen. And one of the things that, I think about in my mindset is that how I take care of myself now if we all have a destiny to live a certain 120 years, or maybe yours is 82 or whatever it is that's your destiny, most people have it in their mind about when that's going to be. And when you expand that, you open up possibilities. But here's the thing, when you get excited and go, wow, Marla, if you're going to live to be 120 and you're going to start a brand new change agent style entrepreneurial adventure at age 90, and I want to expand mine, how I'm taking care of myself now determines if I'm going to have that energy, if I'm going to have the capacity to be vibrant at that point.
Well, you brought up people have it in their minds about how long they're going to live. So I want to share something with you that I share in my seminars, and I'll share this with your audience, which is this. Do you know the very first question that the life insurance agent asks when he comes to your house and you've invited him to your house because you think you need to buy life insurance? Do you know what that question is?
No.
So here's the deal. It's a very casual question. It happens when you're getting him a cup of coffee and he is unloading his briefcase. And he says, so Jenny, about how old do you think you're going to live to? And you will laugh.
Yeah.
And you will deliver an age. So for you, what is that age, just off the top of your head?
94, because that's where my mom, when I was following her along. And then what's interesting, Marla, is when I say that, I have a immediate thought that says, but I don't want to live that long.
Right. So let me just tell you, everyone listening to this right now actually delivered a number within their own head, because the very fact that I asked the question of you actually had everybody else who was listening deliver a number. Now, here is what I want to tell you. Life insurance agents are the best actuaries in the world. We all know that. And they have statistics that say that 85% of everybody that delivers a number dies at that number.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
85% of everybody that delivers a number dies at that number. And now each and every one of you who are listening to this right now, you heard yourself say a number. You thought about it. Now, if you are one of those 85%, my question is that number okay with you? Is that truly the number? And if you have a number, why is that your number? Somebody said they were 6 years old and overheard their aunt say, boy, I'll tell you, don't live into your 80s. Living in your 80s is bad. You want to die before then. And at 6 years old, that impacted him, and that was his number. Now, I want to tell you, I have a friend who's from Cuba. His family's from Cuba. I think he was born here. Very, very close family. He was the last child born. You know, he was like that accident that happened, you know, like change a life baby or something. So his parents were older when he was born, but at about 6 or 7 years old, again, that age, he realized a family member passed away, and it was his first understanding that life wasn't forever and that people died. And so he was very upset by this, and he loved his father so much. And he went to his father and he said, Poppy, don't ever leave me. I never want you to die. And Poppy said to him, don't worry, son. I'm going to live until I'm 83. And as years went on, he would hug his father and kiss his father and say, I love you so much, Poppy. Don't ever leave me. And Poppy would answer, don't worry, my son. I'm going to live till I'm 83. And then one morning, after Poppy turned 83, after years of saying, don't worry, son, I'm going to live till I'm 83, Poppy got up, started walking down the hallway to get his cup of coffee, and he never made it to the kitchen.
Wow.
And my friend says frequently, what if that number was 103? What if he said, don't worry, son, I'm going to live to 103. I will be here for a long time in your life. What if that was his number? Would he still be here today? And that's the
Wow.
question that I ask your audience, those that are listening. What is that number and why is that your number? Think about it. Like, you're all about the mind, right? And you're all about
Yes.
your the holes in your heart that have not been healed. You know, for a lot of people, age is one of those things because of someone they saw really sick at that age, and they said to themselves, I don't want to live to that age because the quality of life isn't good. But that was true for them. It may not be true for you. And why not open your mindset to a long life mindset and embrace the long life mindset at longlifemindset.com.
Yes, exactly. I read a quote yesterday, and it pertains to what you're saying. One, what is that number? And then the question, why? Immediately, I told you what my number was because that's how old my mom was.
Right.
But on the heels of that, and this is getting into your psyche, it is getting into how are you dealing with life now? Because at some point in midlife or beyond, life can get hard and our hearts can get heavy, and we can start having thoughts that if this is what it's going to be like for another 60 years, like I can't carry this load, which is why my coaching goes to those, I say it, unpack the sandbags so the hot air balloon can still fly, right? Like
right.
we want to transcend some of that woundedness or that baggage that we're carrying that isn't even ours. A lot of it's generational baggage that we're just weighted down by. So the more you lift your spirit, the more you can elevate. That's, to me, the youth serum. It's when you have a happy heart, when you have a good constitution, when you can still seek and find joy, no matter what, every day, and make that a part of your experience. When you described the people as you looked over the balcony and how they were reconnecting to youthful days, but with the wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody looks beautiful in that space.
Right.
And so if you're thinking about what your age is and you're thinking, yeah, but the way life is treating me right now, I don't know if I really want that. Or you're saying, yeah, I want that. And I'm further along than I realized. And I don't have time anymore. I'm 60. What am I going to do? I'm 65. It's too old to start a new career path or a new passion or to do anything. So many of the big people that I follow didn't get started until their 60s with what they're doing right now. And Marla included, right? Me included. But there's this quote that said, you're either pulled by the vision or you're pushed by the pain. And to me, I get pushed into old age more from the pain of what I'm programmed to believe it's going to be like. And I'm fighting that because it's like, well, I don't necessarily have to have that experience. Mm-hmm. I trained as a death doula. And that was so fascinating to me that when we had to, it's hard to talk about our own mortality, but when you do, and you think about what comes into perspective in that ending, like, what do you want to look back and reflect on? What do you want to do between now and that date? And we can actually live till we die, or we live dying. And I want to live out loud. I still love skydiving. I still love invigorating things, hiking and traveling and finding adventure and learning. Learning is like so big to me. I just find things I'm interested in and I dive in, and that brings me to life. And then I think, well, what am I going to do with that? I'm supposed to be retired. Why am I busy honing that skill? And I just dismiss it. And my answer is because I'm only 40. And so I still have time. But that mindset, like, what's your vision? And are you taking care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit, so that you're living as long as you choose to live, or at least as long as you are here, it's the best years they can all be the best years.
Right. Do you remember what you just said reminded me of the poem, The Dash? Do you know that poem?
Yes.
For anybody that wants to look that up, it's just Google The Dash poem. And maybe you could put a link to it in your show notes. But it is on a tombstone. You will see born 1925, died, 2027, if you will, and which would be 102 years old. And the poem says that 1925-2027. What did you do with your dash?
Yes.
What was contained within that dash of your life? And you don't want that dash to actually stop at the year 2005 if you actually continue to 2027, right? I'm just throwing out random numbers there. But a lot of people's dash ends maybe 10 years before they actually go. And by the way, economically, the baby boomer generation are the wealthiest generation in the history of America. We still have the most economic wealth per household of any generation before us or after us. And, we are not going to live out expiring Medicare and Social Security. In fact, most of us are still working strong and well, way into above, Social Security age. And what is happening is that we are actually contributing $73 billion back into Social Security with every year we continue to work. So, a lot of people say, oh, well, let's get them out of the way because they're sucking out our Social Security. Not true. We are contributing far more than Generation Z is.
Yes. I know Bob and I are.
I am.
You are. We're all, and I love that. I love it. I love the privilege of being able to still do this. And, we have friends that are our age and they're retired and they wonder, like, why aren't you, And I'm like, well, for us, I would say, transitioning. I know Bob's career is changing from what he's done for 45 years to a new path that we do together. And we're loving that with doing retreats and doing our coaching and intensives and working together. But neither of us have a desire to stop. I just look around like, what would we do with ourselves now if I've got 30 more years? If you and I are going to sit here for 30 years and not contribute, I want to always be in contribution.
I also want to bring up just really quickly, there is this scientific model called the U-curve of happiness. And it states that basically you are at the top of the U-curve on the left when you're preteen. That's when you are the happiest in your life. And we all know as we go into our teenage years what confusing, miserable time that is.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, even for me, my 20s were just like one of the hardest times of my life. Really, I would never want to live out those years again. And then, you get down and right at the bottom of that U is your most unhappiest. And that coincides literally with the ages of maybe 45 to 52, depending on your own biological and mental clock, which coincides with midlife crisis. And so what happens at that moment is you start to question your own happiness. Up until you get into the bottom of that U-curve, you are dimming your own light and maybe living someone else's dream for you. So your parents told you you'd be a great attorney, and so you became an attorney, and what you realized is that you really find that to make you miserable, and what you really want to do is design homes, be a decorator.
Right.
The man you married, the woman you married because your family thought you should, but you've never been happy. You knew it going into it, but you dimmed your own light and it's time to get out of a bad marriage. You lose a job. you usually lose a job because it's not right for you and you're afraid to let go, and then God forbid there is death and despair that you could lose your parents, siblings, God forbid a child, a spouse, things happen. And then you start to say, well, what makes me happy? I am unhappy. You start to meditate. You start to do yoga. You start to actually get connected to an exercise routine. And then little by little, from about age 52 on, you go up that U curve of happiness. And with every decade, science has proven that you get happier and happier and happier and happier. So I am so much happier in my 70s than I was in my 60s, which I didn't think could happen. And so, there's a lot. Just this conversation alone is wisdom that we should be sharing with those that are in their midlife or below.
Yes.
So they can step into this with the vigor that we actually didn't have, but we have the wisdom to know we should have had, and now we can share it.
Yes, and I've had to coach people that have hit a midlife crisis. It's just circumstantial, but it's in that time frame of I don't have a job, my marriage is ending, I've lost everything, and they are literally in the depression of that implosion of life. I want them to understand it's because the feeling is my life is over. I have to start over.
Yes. And they're looking behind themselves and saying, I'm out of time.
Yes.
It's over. But it's not, it's actually just beginning. And now you want to set your mindset so that you have 50 years or more to make everything happen when you're shining your light, not dimming your light.
Exactly. And you gain clarity at that point. I think that's what you were talking about at the bottom of the U. It's you look around and you gain some clarity on, I thought these things were going to make me happy and they don't. I'm not happy. So you refine your strategy. You have to get through the crisis, but you can come out totally focused on a brand new beginning that's more aligned with what's going to make your dreams come true. And that's why that second half of the U ends up being the happiest time of our life. And yeah, so many good lessons and wisdom coming out of this conversation. And I want to queue up a future podcast that Marla and I discussed. And can I say a little bit about that with your...
What did we discuss?
About having you come back. We talked about nutrition.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yes.
One of the things that I will tell you that I watch her do and admire so much, she actually grows a lot of her own food, and she has a cooking segment where she creates unbelievable recipes and makes it look easy. And tips on just how I run my kitchen. She's taught me so much about working around in my kitchen, but she has begun a project of writing it's a big project.
It is a big project. Yes.
It's a cookbook, but it's not just any old cookbook. So talk a little bit about it.
Right. So I have a co-author who's a medical doctor, and we have begun to write the Long Life Era Longevity Cookbook.
Yay.
And yay, oh my God, is the other expression. But it is not a cookbook about what not to eat and how bad this is for you and that is for you, and don't do this and don't do that. Every ingredient of every recipe is given in our index. We have an index in the back of the book, even though we're not that far yet, but we visualize that we have an index at the back of the book.
Manifestation.
Yes. And we are, like, as an example, if a recipe has kale in it, you would look up kale in the index and it would tell you the health benefit of kale. So as an example, kale has a lot of iron in it. If you're iron deficient and maybe you're a vegan and you don't eat enough meat, blah, 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 you will find the health benefit. And then somehow we're going to have to, this came up the other day. I think it came up yesterday when I was talking to you, that we need to have like a cross section. Like if I have gout, as an example, what should I be eating in order to help dissipate that gout. So,
and then what's the recipe?
Yes, and you look up the recipe in the book. Exactly.
Eating for health and eating for healing our body, because our food is such a huge medicine. And the way that most American diets are, it's more poison than medicine. So I love this concept. I love this concept because sometimes I don't know. It's like, okay, I've got this going on. I don't really know what to give up or what to replace or what to use that's going to help my body adjust. So I can't wait for this cookbook to come out. We are going to invite Marla and
Dr. Jean Bokelman.
They're going to come and tell us about some of what is going to be, what that project's been like from birthing it and what it's taken. As you heard her exhausted sigh, it's a labor of love for sure. And just talk about their journey together and what this nutrition aspect is.
And by the way, can I just add this to this, and we'll say this again when we get together, but I don't even know if you know this, but so Dr. Jean was the valedictorian of our class. So of course she went off to become a medical doctor. And during the 7 years that we were in school together, we were never in classes together because she was the valedictorian and I was a B+, A- student. So I was never in any of her classes, right? But we would walk down the hallway and we would see each other. And the most we ever did was wave our hand and smile and say hi and then just keep walking. We really didn't, I'm sure, have much in common back in those years, just based on our family differences and just a lot of things. At my 50th class reunion, I saw her. And we stopped and we had just the most intimate, connective conversation that I had had with anybody that night. And then we said bye, and she walked this way and I walked that way. And I walked away and thought, wow, that was amazing. And for days, like, that conversation stayed with me. I felt so connected to her in such a visceral way, I could not even describe it. And when I started the Long Life Era Community Facebook group, and I had to invite people, her name came up, and I would have passed that name because I didn't really know her. But after that conversation at our 50th class reunion, I knew her in a way in which I could have never known her. And so I invited her to the group. And she's been one of the most powerful voices in the group.
Wow.
In so many different ways. And then we ended up doing this cookbook together and everything. I mean, it just was, what a powerful moment that reunion actually ended up being for me.
Right? If you're not yet to your 50th class reunion, it inspires you to say, I want to go, because I think about that. I think, oh my goodness, it threw you into this joyous place that then catapulted you into depression.
Yes.
Which birthed this knowledge of this is the longest era of our life, the longest
era of our life.
And we are, which is why you named it Long Life Era instead of retirement, because that was where you began. Like, what do we call us? We're not retired yet.
Right. Or senior citizens is such a, it doesn't say senior citizen. Every time you hear second class citizen. That's what you hear. And nobody wants to be that.
No, it's on your way out.
Yeah. And nobody is that. Nobody is that. Not until the day the dash ends.
Yes. And so I love that journey that you said, because it's also kind of like it was your midlife crisis, right? Like that you were like, oh, I'm kind of past midlife, and it hit that. But what I want everybody to hear is that it's always a birthing process. When they say that the caterpillar hit its darkest days and thought the world had come to an end, and then it became a butterfly. And that's how this feels. It's like, we go through those periods of readjusting and reacclimating to life and stress and things that occur. But from that, there's hope and there's possibilities, and we have to keep living and not just start shutting everything down, literally.
And to be clear, I've had multiple midlife crises.
I have too.
Right. But the really great thing about this one at this time and the one that'll come when I'm 90 and start my new business is that you take them on with less fear.
Yes.
And
yes.
Because it's never as bad as you fear it actually is or going to get, and that's part of living and with our own wisdom about, going through these things. So I don't care how old you are when you're listening to this. If there's something you want to do it and get out there and do it. It's been waiting for you your whole life. And I would also say, what was that number? And think about moving that number. And you can do that. A lot of people move their number when they went to longlifemindset.com. And I've got great stories to tell about that, but we're out of time, so I won't.
Okay. Well, we'll let them tell their story. We'd love to hear from you and share this with people that are in their midlife crisis, or with people in their long life era, or people that maybe are done with a career and retired, but they're not done with life and they don't know that they can start something new, or it's never too late. We are creative, resourceful people. If we just allow ourselves to dream and go for it, like Marla said, don't just sit back and quit. Make the most of your dash. Marla, thank you so much for your time today. I know everyone has to be inspired as I am. And we look forward to having you and Dr. Jean back soon so that we can talk about this cookbook. I'm very intrigued. So everyone take care. Go take care of yourself. Set your long life number. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? And what is that number that you think you're going to want to live to when you know now that there's so much possibility between now and then? And look at all of that with love. Take care.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found a spark of wisdom to carry with you, and maybe even a deeper invitation to heal and grow and transform through your own beautiful story. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone who could use encouragement. And if so, I hope you will share it with them. If you'd like to learn more about working with me or attending one of my healing retreats, coaching programs, and other offerings, you can visit my website at jennyaiello.com or email me directly at jenny@jaiello.com. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If today's episode touched you, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with someone who might need it, or just reach out and let me know how it landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm building something special here. Real stories, real life, real connection. One episode, one heart, and one story at a time. As always, with love. Oh, and this is the legal message, but mostly a message from my heart, and I just need to share this with you right now. Please know this podcast is offered solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you find yourself triggered due to anything that was shared in this podcast, please seek professional help. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for mental health services. While I am a professional life coach, I am not a psychotherapist, nor am I a mental health clinician. So if you are struggling emotionally, please seek help, because you matter, you are important, and most of all, you are worthy of doing this work, the work that leads you to a better and healthier place. Okay? All right. Thank you. And please always make enough time to take care of yourself, and do so with love.